It's not normally what a director has to do. It's good to have some good boots in.
For decades, Werner Herzog terrified audiences, exhausted his crews, and dragged cinema into places it was never meant to go. He was the filmmaker who answered to no one, not to critics, not to studios, not even to common sense. Stories about Herzog became legend, pointing a gun at an actor, hauling a steamship over a mountain, marching into jungles, deserts, volcanoes, and frozen wastelands as if the world itself were daring him to stop. And yet, at 83 years old, Werner Herzog finally did something he had almost never done before, quietly, without promotion, without spectacle. He revealed the movies that shaped his mind. What shocked people wasn't just which films he chose. It was why he chose them. Because these films do not inspire comfort. They do not offer hope. They do not explain themselves. They disturb. They accuse. They strip away illusions and leave the viewer alone with something unsettling and unresolved. Once you understand why Herzog loves these films, you will never watch his work the same way again. You will realize that every long silence, every indifferent landscape, every unresolved ending in his films traces back to a single idea. Cinema is not here to comfort you. It is here to confront you. And it all begins with the film that gave Werner Herzog permission to stop explaining anything at all. At the very top of Werner Herzog's list sits a film that did not just influence him, it liberated him. 2001, A Space Odyssey. When the film premiered in 1968, confusion followed immediately. Audiences walked out of theaters, critics argued over its meaning, even fellow filmmakers accused Stanley Kubrick of arrogance for refusing to explain what they had just witnessed. Most directors saw backlash. Herzog saw freedom. He did not experience 2001 as a puzzle to be solved or a story to be decoded. He experienced it as a reminder of something far more disturbing. Human beings are not the center of the universe, and the universe does not care if we understand it. Years later, Herzog summarized his reaction with a single sentence that reveals everything about why this film sits at number one. This is the only science fiction film that has a sense of the infinite. Kubrick allows silence to dominate entire sequences. Time stretches without urgency. Meaning is withheld. The universe remains unmoved by human presence. For Herzog, that indifference was not cold, it was honest. Before encountering 2001, Herzog still carried a quiet belief that cinema should guide the viewer, clarify meaning, resolve confusion, offer answers. Kubrick destroyed that belief in one stroke. The monolith is never explained. The Stargate sequence refuses interpretation. The final transformation offers no instructions. Herzog understood immediately that ambiguity was not weakness. It is a moral position. After 2001, he abandoned any obligation to translate meaning for the audience. Films like Fata Morgana drift through mirages without narrative anchors. Aguirre, The Wrath of God, allows ambition to rot into madness without commentary. Encounters at the End of the World presents Antarctica not as wonder, but as indifference made visible. Kubrick did not teach Herzog a style. He taught him permission. Permission to let silence speak. Permission to leave questions unanswered. Permission to confront audiences with the possibility that the world does not make sense. If 2001, A Space Odyssey, had never existed, Herzog might have softened his films with explanation and comfort. Instead, he learned that unanswered questions could be more truthful than any answer, and that lesson became the foundation of everything he made afterward. Second on Werner Herzog's list is a film that haunted him long before he ever touched a camera. Nosferatu. Directed by F.W. Murnau, this silent vampire film did something Herzog believed modern cinema had forgotten how to do. It terrified without noise, without explanation, without relief. While the cinema grew louder, faster, and more explicit, Herzog became convinced that silent cinema had already solved fear at its deepest level. Fear becomes more powerful, he believed, when it is not explained, when it is not underlined, when it is not softened by music or dialogue. To Herzog, Nosferatu is rarely a horror film. It is a study of isolation. Count Orlok does not rush his victims. He does not scream. He does not chase. He waits. He advances slowly, patiently, as if time itself belongs to him. Death does not announce itself in this film. It arrives quietly. It spreads like a disease through empty streets, abandoned rooms, and lifeless faces. That restraint disturbed Herzog far more than violence ever could. Years later, Herzog explained his obsession with a striking clarity. He said silent cinema understood how to let images do the work that dialogue now interrupts. Shadows climbing walls, rats flooding deserted towns, faces drained of life. Nothing tells the viewer how to feel, and because of that, the fear grows internally. Decades after first encountering Nosferatu, Herzog returned to it directly. In 1979, he remade the film, not to modernize it, not to compete with it, but to speak back to it across time. He explained his motivation in simple terms. I wanted to prove that the old images still have power. That sentence reveals something essential about Herzog's philosophy. He never believed cinema progresses by replacing the past. He believed it survives by remembering what it once knew. In his own films, music rarely manipulates emotion. Landscapes overpower dialogue. Long stretches unfold without explanation, forcing the audience to sit with unease instead of escaping it. Nosferatu taught Herzog that violence does not require spectacle. It requires duration. It requires stillness. Silence does not weaken fear. It sharpens it. And that lesson quietly shaped every restrained, unsettling image he would later create. Third, on Werner Herzog's list is the most unsettling choice of all, because this time the film did not come from another mind. It came from his own, Grizzly Man. By placing Grizzly Man among the films that shaped him, Herzog crossed a line few directors ever dared to cross. He did not include it out of pride. He included it because it was the first time cinema allowed him to state his worldview without metaphor, without disguise, and without distance. At the center of the film is Timothy Treadwell, a man who spent 13 summers living among wild grizzly bears in Alaska. Treadwell believed the bears loved him. He spoke to them as friends. He filmed himself as their protector. When Herzog watched the footage, he immediately understood the danger. To him, Treadwell's devotion was not courage, it was delusion. When Herzog assembled the documentary, he was not constructing a tribute to environmental passion. He was issuing a warning about human projection. That warning becomes unmistakable when Herzog delivers one of the most controversial lines ever spoken in a documentary. The common denominator of the universe is not harmony, but chaos, hostility, and murder. The line stunned audiences because it rejected a comforting fantasy. Herzog was not talking about bears. He was talking about people, about the human desire to believe that nature reflects our emotions, that the wilderness shares our morality, that good intentions offer protection. In Herzog's worldview, nature has no morality. It does not love. It does not hate. It simply exists. The consequences of Grizzly Man were profound. For the first time, Herzog articulated his belief with total clarity. Affection does not protect you. Intention does not matter. And misunderstanding nature can be fatal. After Grizzly Man, sentimentality almost completely vanished from his documentaries. Into the Inferno treats volcanoes as indifferent forces. Fireball presents cosmic destruction as awe-inspiring, not tragic. By placing Grizzly Man on this list, Herzog made a rare admission. This was the film where he finally succeeded in saying exactly what he believed about humanity's place in the world. This was the moment he confronted himself and refused to look away. The final film on Werner Herzog's list is not the most famous, but it may be the most revealing, The Great Silence. Directed by Sergio Corbucci, this film shattered one of cinema's oldest promises, the promise that patience will be rewarded, that good will prevail, that justice will arrive in the final moments. Most Westerns end by restoring order, the hero survives, the villains fall, the landscape settles into meaning. The Great Silence does the opposite. It ends with the hero dead, the villains victorious, and a snow quietly covering the bodies as if nothing ever mattered. When Herzog first encountered the film, he did not describe it as shocking because of violence. He described it as shocking because of its honesty. The mute gunslinger fails. The innocent are hunted for profit. Justice never arrives, and the landscape does not react. Snow continues to fall, indifferent, beautiful, unmoved. For Herzog, that indifference was not cruelty, it was truth. He recognized in Corbucci's frozen world the same worldview that haunted his own instincts. Nature does not intervene, it does not reward virtue, it does not punish evil, it simply continues. Herzog later spoke about the film as a revelation because it clarified something he had struggled to articulate for years. Endings do not exist to comfort the audience. They exist to reflect reality. If reality offers no redemption, cinema should not invent one. False hope, Herzog believed, can be more dishonest than despair. The influence of the Great Silence becomes unmistakable in Aguirre, The Wrath of God. In both films, ambition collapses under its own weight. Nature watches without judgment. The camera refuses to intervene. Herzog absorbed Corbucci's refusal to soften outcomes and carried it deep into the jungle, where madness unravels without moral framing or rescue. After this film, Herzog abandoned the idea that cinema should resolve moral tension or reassure viewers that meaning will emerge at the end. Instead, his films expose the cost of ambition and the silence that follows failure. Hope, when dishonest, becomes a form of cruelty, an idea Herzog traced directly back to those frozen landscapes where mercy never arrived. 4 films, 4 obsessions, and 1 worldview that never softened with age. For Werner Herzog, these movies did not simply influence his taste, they stripped something away from him. Each film removed a layer of comfort that cinema usually provides. 2001, A Space Odyssey taught him that the universe does not explain itself, meaning can remain silent. And that silence can be honest. Nosferatu showed him that fear does not need sound, speed, or spectacle. It needs patience, it needs stillness, it needs time to rot inside the viewer. Grizzly Man forced Herzog to confront his own beliefs without disguise, to admit that nature is not a mirror of human morality, that good intentions do not grant safety, and that misunderstanding reality can be fatal. The Great Silence finally taught him that cinema must never lie at the ending. If reality offers no redemption, then neither should the film. False hope to Herzog is a deeper cruelty than despair. Together, these films formed a single philosophy. Cinema does not exist to reassure us that the world makes sense. It exists to confront us with the possibility that it does not. This is why Herzog's landscapes feel indifferent, why his characters chase meaning and find silence instead, why his endings rarely offer comfort. He's not cruel, he is honest. At 83, when Werner Herzog finally revealed the films that shaped him, he was not offering a list of favorites. He was offering a confession that cinema, at its most truthful, does not guide us gently. It leaves us alone with questions we cannot escape unchanged. So here's the question he leaves behind. Which of these films would you dare to watch alone, knowing it will not comfort you and will not let you walk away the same? Tell me in the comments, and subscribe if you're ready for more fearless deep dives into cinema that refuses to blink.